my studio, folks, and I hope you'll enjoy this little session. But what we're going to do today is to glaze. I'm going to show you a couple of the techniques that I use for glazing some of my larger pots. There are many different ways, but what I've got here is just a simple little device that you put underneath plant pots. And here you can see I've got a little cross whisker which a friend of mine made in stainless steel, and I'll place that on. And then I've got a spacer, just a bit of drain pipe which I've cut, and now you see we'll get hold of the pot and I'm going to turn it upside down. Oh, but first of all I should say that I have actually waxed around, and the reason for this is so that when you apply the glaze to the pot, it repels any glaze that might have gone where you don't want it to go, where the wax is. And I've done a little bit around the around the well, I say upper rim, but in actual fact it's the bottom of the pot. Okay, as you can see, I've oxidized the pot as well with the red oxide on the base. So here we are, all set, and now I'm just stirring the glaze up. And I can remember when I had my children and they used to help me with that DIY, and we used to get them to mix up the paint. I used to say, once you've finished, do it again. And then when you've done it again, do it again. This way we're guaranteed that the thing was really well mixed. So now I'm going to pour some of this glaze into this jug carefully. Right, now here we are, back with the pot. And what I've got here is a pencil so that I can just mark a position where I'm going to start so I don't go over twice. And here you see I'm rotating with my left hand and just very carefully pouring the glaze around the pot. And as you can see, although I'm actually overlapping in places onto the oxide, it's actually repelled it. So we need to top up, and I always give 2 coats of glaze. I like to have my glazes fairly thick on the pots. Yes, you can see there how the wax is pushing the glaze away. And here we go around again, and again, and we're coming up to my pencil mark, and there we go. And that basically is one aspect of it. And I lift that off carefully, just plonk it on the side, take away my spacer and the cross whisker. And I'm going to top up the glaze in the tray there, the plant tray, add a little bit more glaze to it, give it a bit of depth. Here we are, and then we'll get hold of the pot and I'll just lower it in there to make sure that the rim is properly glazed. And there you are, you can see. So we just run it off a little bit, get the worst of the drips off. And these bigger pots are not always easy to handle, and that basically is it. And this particular glaze that I'm using is a white glaze, and this pot that I'm holding in my hand at the moment has a similar glaze, and it's also got a little bit of oxide on it to give me this brownish drizzle. And this is how it would come out of the kiln, like this. Okay, now I do have another similar pot which I have treated with an ink. It's the sort of ink that the calligraphers use when they do their scroll paintings, and here you can see how the ink has been absorbed. Right, now we've got a considerably larger pot, and as you can see I've altered my tray at the bottom to one of the larger horticultural trays, and I've got here a different sort of setup. I don't have my cross whisker, but the reason I've done this is so that the larger pot will catch the drips better, and I've got a different glaze here as well, as you can see. So I poured that into my jug, and now we will do what we did earlier. I'll mark it up with my starting reference, This also has been waxed inside and out. And although we're overlapping on the oxide, you can see the wax repels it. There we go. I try to keep up a similar sort of motion and boom, there it is. Now I'll top it up again, because as I mentioned earlier, I always like to do a double coating. And around we go again. It's quite difficult to manhandle these larger pots because the holes are very sharp, you know, and they cut into your fingers, and that's the only way I can actually hold the pot, through its holes. But once I've gone round, and we stop here at the starting point, I'll just pour the remainder of the glaze into the tray. We'll lift the pot off again, and I'll just take that away, and now this is the odd bit. Way. Dip it in one side and then around to the other side, and then you twist it again, third side, and then the fourth side. And it is heavy. I do it this way because I don't know of any other way to do it. I'm sure other potters will have their own systems. So there you go. End of that one, and now it's just a question of cleaning stuff up. And these little spatulas that you can get from any of the kitchenware shops is absolutely brilliant. They really do scrape the stuff off the jug and the trays. So this all gets poured back in, and you see, wonderful, wonderful. And basically that's it. That's how I go about most of my glazing. With smaller pots that will actually fit into these tubs that I hold my glaze in, I would actually, if there's enough glaze in there and it's deep enough, I would actually dip the pot into the glaze. And that of course is a lot easier than what you've just seen. But I'd like to think you've had some sort of insight into how I go about the glazing of the pots, and it's great fun. Well, if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe and click the like button.